Well, here we are at the end of 2024, and I hope y'all had a Merry Christmas. And it's been a good year. And as we enter into 2025, I kind of reflect on the guns I carried in 2024. And to be quite honest, this particular year was different than many of the years of the past. Because in the past, I tend to be on kind of this search for the perfect carry gun, or I'm trying different guns. And I did try some new guns this year, but as far as just what I actually carried, what I put on as I went out in the world, really just came down to two guns. And over the last decade, what I prefer has evolved into really these two guns. And I'm going to start by saying they're not new guns. Neither one of these are new guns. One of them's outdated so much they don't even make it anymore. Well, I suppose they probably don't make either one of these guns now that I think about it. I could be wrong, but I know for sure one has been discontinued many years ago. But there's definitely a pattern in why I carry these guns as well. They're tried, they're true. And they both have a particular feature on them that most modern guns just simply don't have. That's why I carry older guns now instead of newer guns, is there's just a particular feature that I like on both these guns that makes both of them really the perfect carry guns. And they both serve a different purpose based on where I'm going. So I'm going to start off with the gun that I carry the most in 2024. I probably carried this gun about 360 or 365 days last year, and it's been my regular carry for a while now. And there's many reasons why this is my carry gun. And the gun I'm talking about is the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard in 380, not the new one, but the older one. I don't really particularly like the new one because it's striker fired. Just not a big fan of striker fired guns. Now, I appreciate a good striker fired trigger. Don't get me wrong. Love striker fired guns as a whole. But when it comes to what I carry, there's two things I want it to have. Number one, no manual safety on. Now, this gun does have a manual safety, but it's off. It's off the whole time. And the reason is because its first trigger pull is double action only. And for that matter, every trigger pull for this gun is double action only. But those are the two features that I prefer in a carry gun. No manual safety on and first round double action pull. And both those things go together for me. I don't want to think about having to take a manual safety off if I'm in a very big life-threatening situation. I just want to pull and squeeze that trigger, and those are the only maneuvers I want to make. But because of that, I like the first round to be double action. And then for this particular handgun, it's double action every single round. So this particular gun has that feature. I never put the manual safety on, and the safety is that double action pull, but it's so darn tiny. It's actually smaller than the new one. One, it has the advantage of being tiny. It's about the size of a deck of cards. 6+1 capacity. It does have extended magazines you can get for it. It's a single stack. It's so incredibly thin, but it's ridiculously accurate for what it is. I mean, think about this gun for a little bit. It's a tiny, tiny little gun. It's got a tiny little barrel. You barely get your hands on it. You definitely can't get your pinky on it. It's double action every single pull, yet it's incredibly accurate. Now, you do have to train yourself with that double action trigger, and I do and have over the last years shot this thing thousands and thousands and thousands of times. It never fails on me, ever. It's reliable as heck. And again, it just fits that little niche. Now, I know I'm unique in that way. And I know a lot of people like carrying striker fired handguns without a manual safety. I'm just not one of them. I'm a work in progress. I just feel a little safer having a first round double action pull. I always prefer that. So this gun has always been my go-to. I got a pocket holster with it. It's incredibly concealable, incredibly reliable, incredibly accurate. It fits all the safety niches that I like for a good concealed carry gun that I never have to worry about at all. And this gun just fits it, unlike any others. I know there's a lot of other guns that are this size. I just haven't found any that fit all these niches perfectly. When the new bodyguard came out, I was excited about it, but honestly, I was really hoping they just turned the current gun into a double stack, but it said they created a whole new gun. I know everybody loves it. I'm just not one of those people. I think it's a great gun, but again, this one's smaller. I haven't necessarily tested the accuracy over time in the newer one, but it fits all the niches for me personally. So it's been the gun that I carried most of this year. Now, the second gun I'm going to talk about also fits into a kind of a different niche in that when I go out into the wilderness, I'm going to spend a lot of time in the wilderness this last year. Mostly going through the book of Matthew verse by verse required me to be out hunting and fishing. That requires me to be deep in the wilderness by myself often. But in addition to that, I am going into a lot of caves because of the Malachi series. I'm out in the wilderness a lot. And when it comes to being out in the wilderness, the types of guns I prefer is really 40 caliber on up, just being honest. And the gun I settled with has been discontinued by Sig Sauer for quite some time, but it's the SIG P250 subcompact. Now, why did I pick this gun? Number one, I love the SIG P250. It's essentially the SIG P320, but with a double action every pull trigger. So when they made the 320, they essentially took the 250, put a striker fired trigger on it, called it a different gun. And it was a very different gun. I just prefer the double action on the trigger. I want to go back to that. There's no manual safety. It's just double action pull every single time, kind of like a revolver, but it's a 40 caliber semi-automatic handgun. They just don't make any guns like that anymore. It's also a double stack subcompact. So I got 10+1, 40 caliber, conceals real nicely. Not necessarily am I worried about in the wilderness, but you never know. Sometimes you run into neighbors, or I've ran into poachers in the past. I've ran into, just people out fishing because I got some shoreline there. I just always prefer to be concealing, especially if I'm out on the water or out by the water, because you never know who you run into at that point. It's not a trespass when they pull up on the community water, so to say. So. But that particular gun, again, I don't trust the 320, never have, never will, ever since they had their drop issue where it'd go off if you dropped it. And then they said they fixed it. And there was at least a dozen police that this year alone, after all the fixes, this year alone, had their gun go off in their holster. And just Google lawsuits. They're everywhere. And I'm not carrying that gun, but I do like the 250 version of it. And I know a lot of people do. That's great. I'm just not one of them. I don't think I'm necessarily like this old person that I just like it the way it used to be. It's not that. I love modern technologies and firearms. It's just the trend is striker fired triggers. I'm just not in on the trend. I appreciate a good striker fired trigger. I just don't necessarily think it's best for me personally. I like a first round double action, then single after that is kind of the ideal situation. But for what I did this year, which was just going out in the world, tiny little gun the size of a deck of cards, single or double action every pull. Bodyguard 380. Love that gun. Love that gun. And then in addition to that, when I'm out in the wilderness, I have the SIG P250, double action every pull in 40 caliber, subcompact version. And that's just what I've preferred. It's what I've enjoyed over this year. There's a lot of guns I've tried, and I don't want to say I haven't carried another gun, just not like if I carried it, it would just be for shooting only, like I'm carrying it while I'm at the range kind of thing. As far as going out in the world and thinking, what am I going to put on to protect myself and my family while I'm out in the world? These were the only two guns. The Smith & Wesson Bodyguard in .380, the old version, and the SIG P250 in .40 caliber subcompact. So there you go, man. Love to know your thoughts on any of this. Again, I hate to outdate myself because, again, I love modern technologies. I love the modern evolution of the firearm. Strike fired without safety is not for me. Any gun with a safety, not for me. You know, safety on. If I'm going to carry it, I just want to pull and shoot. And again, I love 1911. Like, oh, there's so many guns I love, and I will carry. I'm not against carrying them. But just this year, this is what I found myself carrying. By the end of the year, I thought, boy, I just carried two this year, didn't I? So there you go. Love to know your thoughts on any of this. What did you carry all year? Put that in the comments below. Do want to take a moment and say most people watch the channel, hey, they're not subscribers. Click that subscribe button. It greatly increases the algorithm and our ability to get these messages out. That link is below. But most important part of the channel, we take prayer requests. So please don't ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.